You ready?
May not be a big board, but bullies out in the world can be very quiet.
You ready?
Especially when they run for president.
Notice is hereby given of the regular meeting of the Board of Education of the Town of Westfield in the County of Union, New Jersey at 7:30 p.m. on the evening of Tuesday, May 24th, 2016, in the boardroom of the Administration Building, 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey. The purpose of the meeting is to transact the regular business of the board and to transact any other business to come properly before the board. This is to advise the general public and to instruct that it be recorded in the minutes that in compliance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, entitled the Open Public Meetings Act, the Westfield School Board on Thursday, May 19th, 2016, caused to be posted at the office of the Board of Education, located at 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey, and delivered to the Westfield Leader, the Star Ledger, the Westfield Library, Town Clerk of Westfield, Tap into Westfield, and Patch.com, a meeting notice setting forth the time, date, and location of this meeting. Danny, can we have a roll call, please?
Mark Friedman.
Here.
Brendan Galligan. Robert Garrison.
Here.
Chris Langhart.
Here.
Ginny Lights.
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg.
Yes.
Peggy Oster.
Here.
Charles Ostroff.
Here.
Mitch Slater.
Here.
Mark, can you lead us in the flag?
Sure. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Announcements. Rob, do you have any?
I do indeed. 2 of our high school students were invited to attend the National Police Athletic League Youth Town Hall meeting held in Arlington, Virginia. In April, senior Erica Simmons and 11th grader Matt Reed had the opportunity to dialogue with fellow PAL members, government and community leaders, as well as law enforcement executives from across the country to continue the fostering of a positive relationship among groups. The PAL national leadership was interested in hearing about initiatives within various communities, such as Westfield, where students like Erica and Matt volunteer weekly to provide free after-school tutoring sponsored by the local PAL. Earlier in the day, prior to the start of the meeting, Erica, Matt, and Westfield High School teacher Gail Alston and retired Westfield detective Ron Allen had the unique opportunity of participating in the behind-the-scenes tours of an airport control tower, TSA and U.S. Custom areas, and a joint military base in Washington, D.C.
Thank you. Chris.
Yes. This is for Tomoquas Elementary School. Congratulations to Tomoquas Elementary School, which has been named the Specialty Prize winner in the 2016 Carton to Garden contest. The school was awarded $2,500 for its program, which used cartons and gardening to connect with Holocaust survivors. The unique project focused on kindness, and it grew into honoring the lives of children lost in the Holocaust through revitalizing the school's neglected butterfly garden. The first graders brainstormed by discussing the importance of kindness and making the world a better place. Then they asked for help from their 5th grade buddies, who realized that the theme of kindness was such an important connection to their study of the Holocaust. They read the poem The Butterfly and learned that butterflies are a symbol of the children that were lost in the Holocaust. Together, they made the connection to the 1st grade curriculum of the life cycle of the butterfly. The students recycled milk cartons by wrapping them in foil and decorating them with kind words. Then they planted seeds in their cartons and arranged them to spell out the word hope. Their Hope Grows cartons will welcome butterflies later this spring. Wonderful story.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay. From the world of performing arts, more good news. Congratulations to our talented thespians and stage crew from Westfield High School's fall production of The Cherry Orchard by Anton Chekhov. Received 3 Montclair State University Theater Nights Awards on May 16th, including the coveted Outstanding Production of a Classical Play. In addition, top awards were presented to Maddie Huddleston for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Classical Play, and to Maddie Rosenthal for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Classical Play. This marks the 3rd consecutive year that Westfield High School has garnered Best Play recognition at the Theater Night Awards, which recognizes excellence in the production of high school and middle school plays throughout New Jersey. We applaud the entire cast and crew, as well as Westfield High School drama teacher Daniel Devlin. In addition, Roosevelt Intermediate School's Olivia Abel, I apologize, won the Outstanding Middle School Performance Award for her role in The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Drama teacher Kim Johnny was joined at the Montclair State University Award night by 30 students and parents. Congratulations. Wonderful honors.
Thank you. Jenny? Charles?
Yes, Westfield High School. Congratulations to 6 more 11th grade students who have each achieved the highest score of 36 on the ACT standardized test widely used for college admissions and placement criteria, including Matthew Bernstein in writing, Samuel Bennett for science, Jacob Davis for reading, Chloe Schaefer for reading, Gabriel Gevelber for mathematics, and Nicholas Nolan for mathematics.
Thank you.
This is from the intermediate schools. Raising kids with a healthy body image was the focus of Roosevelt Intermediate School's Coffee with Counselors on May 18th, the last in a series of parent workshops planned for the Westfield school year. In addition to the school's 3 counselors, Kim Schumacher, Christine Treter, and Stephanie Thompson, presenters include Cassie Teschner, who is a senior at Westfield High School. As part of her Girl Scout Gold Award project, she's been researching facts about eating disorders for the past 3 years and was invited to speak and to distribute brochures which she produced on the topic. Counselors created a resource-filled PowerPoint which can be viewed on the Roosevelt Intermediate School Counseling website. The presentation included many tips for parents as well as alarming statistics which addressed the impact of negative body image and media messages and ways to promote a positive body image in teens. School nurse Sharon Dory, who also spoke to parents, shares similar information and stresses good eating habits with the 6th to 8th graders as part of the health curriculum. The Coffee with Counselors was launched in 2014 for the purpose of dialoguing with parents and providing resources on topics of interest.
Thank you.
I bring good news to all. Just a reminder, Westfield Public Schools and offices will be closed from Friday, May 27th through Memorial Day, May 30th. Friday is the district's last Give Back Snow Day, and we wish everyone an enjoyable and safe Memorial Day.
Our next Board of Ed meeting will be held on June 14th, beginning at 7:30 p.m. We'll honor the intermediate and high school teachers of the year. It includes the Optimist Award winners Aaron Mead from Edison Intermediate School and Christine Cassou from Roosevelt. The Westfield High School honorees include Scott Rutherford, Christopher Vitale, Maria Martinez, and Christopher Tefesky. Did I do that right? Thank you. At this point, I'd like to recognize the public for agenda items only. I'm thrilled to see that some members of our strategic planning group are here. We are Dr. Dolan's going to do a presentation regarding the strategic plan. So if you have comments while we welcome them, maybe it makes sense to wait until after her presentation. Anyone else is welcome to come if you're here to speak about an agenda item. All right, seeing no one come, I will turn it over to you, Dr. Dolan.
Thank you. And I do have to start with a thank you. The process for developing a strategic plan really started a year ago when we did a community survey, and the results of that helped inform some of the work that we decided to focus on. And I also have to thank the members of the community, teachers, administrators, and board members who volunteered their time for the development of the strategic plan. And it's through the support and energy of these committee members that we're going to be able to prepare our students to meet the challenges going forward for the next 5 years. We do have on a slide a list of the various people who did give up Saturdays, not only give up Saturdays, but review the various information we sent home, the data regarding the district, and brought their expertise from a number of different fields, brought their thoughts, their passions, their hopes for their own children, their observations. We had people of varying ages there, so some had observations over the generations, and that helped as well. So to thank all of these people for taking that time. What we did was we spent 2 full days working on what were our beliefs, our thoughts, our visions, etc. That created, as you might imagine, quite a bit of thoughts that then needed to be organized. So we took all of the information and we sought to build a strategic plan that really is just the structure or the framework to lead us. It's not the details. We still have all the details, all the information that people suggested, the specific suggestions that people have for going forward, maybe a given class they thought was good or something like that. We're not dealing at that level right now. We're not dealing with the tactics. We're just dealing with the strategy part, and that's the intent of this plan, is just the basics. Each year, based on what we've outlined in this strategic plan, the board will meet, will have conversation, and will come to a decision what are the specific goals we will focus on for the next given year. Okay, so this is the basic framework, and the details follow for each year of the plan. First thing, not the first thing, but the first thing we'll look at tonight is the mission statement. We met in various groups to talk about the mission statement. Should it stay exactly the same? Should it change? Did it need to be changed completely? And I will tell you that the different groups at the table had different thoughts. Some thought it was perfect the way it was. It ranged. But what I did with everything that's in this draft that's being presented tonight is we reviewed it here in Elm Street, and then we presented it to the Long-Range Planning Committee of this board, where we then discussed and debated again what was appropriate. So the proposed mission statement changes a few words, and I think it tightens up the language, but it doesn't change the intent of the mission statement at all. For example, let me just give a few examples. It used to say, the Westfield Public School District in cooperation with families and community, and that was changed to in partnership. A change that does matter, I think, but doesn't change the total intent. Going on from there, it now says educates all students. It used to say prepares, but we did have that suggested at the table that we change it to educate, since that's our true main focus. And then the rest of the mission statement, honestly, it was the structure of the sentence that was changed, not the words. And one of our guidance for mission statement is don't tell us how you're going to do it, just tell us what you're going to do. So that changed the end of the mission statement. So the proposed mission statement is the Westfield Public School District in partnership with families and community educates all students to reach their highest potential as productive, well-balanced, and responsible citizens who respect individual differences and diversity in an ever-changing world. The next section of the proposed strategic plan focuses on the vision. So looking out at 2021. In 2021, what do we want to see in our district? We want to see engaging, relevant, and deeper learning for all. We don't want superficial learning. We don't want students coming in, memorizing something, being tested on it, and then forgetting it. We want deeper learning that students will continue to carry with them. We want focused health and wellness programs and practices, engagement and development of stakeholders, be they students, parents, staff, community members, facilities and grounds to support learning and programs, and strong and sustainable financial resources. The next section is beliefs. Now, those of you who are sitting here tonight probably are not going to believe this. I usually don't read what's on the slides, but this is a time where I think, since this is what we are committing to and this is what we're saying we believe, I may very well read what's on the slides, because I think it's important for us to understand our beliefs. They truly guide what we do each and every day. So first, we believe excellence in education includes a curriculum that has the breadth and depth to challenge all learners, again, hearkening back to the deeper learning. An acceptance and demonstration of core values of mutual respect, responsibility, caring, and integrity, and an emphasis on understanding and appreciating cultural differences and similarities. Now, about our students, we believe our students learn best when they are in an environment where they feel physically, emotionally, and intellectually secure. They need to feel safe if we're going to be successful and they're going to be successful. They are appropriately motivated to achieve their greatest potential as individuals. They are provided access to a wide variety of opportunities supported by a partnership of family, school, peers, and community, the stakeholders we spoke about before. We believe the role of parents is to provide for the physical and emotional needs of their children so that they come to school ready to learn, to be effective partners with the school by advocating for their children when appropriate, and guiding their children to be their own best advocates as they advance through the school system, and to teach their children through example, to conduct themselves with integrity, honor, and respect for others while achieving their personal best. And the staff. We certainly have expectations for all staff. We expect them to be knowledgeable in their content area and highly skilled in instructional methods. We expect them to provide a safe and respectful environment that values learning, and we expect staff to continually pursue professional development that enhances instruction. and our community. Actually, we do expect a lot from our community in Westfield. I'm not sure that's the case all over, but we do expect that from our community. We expect that the community will support and promote a positive social and emotional environment for the citizens, and to provide a safe and welcoming place for students to congregate or participate in organized events after school and on weekends, to partner financially and through in-kind services to support the education of our students. So again, I believe our beliefs guide our work every day. We then focused on 4 different strategic directions, rather broad goals. I'm going to first present the 4 goals and the steps underneath those goals as was agreed upon by the long-range planning. Since then, I have other suggestions from some board members, so there are 2 slides at the end which add those other additional thoughts. Okay? So the first goal focuses on strengthening deeper learning for all students. There are many conversations on the Saturdays talking about meaningful connections across academic disciplines, not just having a 40-minute period. Some of the tables spoke about how the humanities courses have been so successful for many students at the high school, and could we be doing something along those lines for also the math and science areas and other areas in our schools. Also talked about the importance of integrating technology systemically across grade levels, across schools, across content areas. Increasing project-based learning and modifying facilities to support learning. With all the changes in instruction, most of our facilities, they have an average of 80 years. They're an average of 80 years old. That's not always the easiest to be able to use technology easily, to do project-based learning easily. But we will be looking at ways to modify our facilities. Second goal, to engage and develop the various stakeholders. We spoke about establishing parent academies. Parent academies, we would actually work with parents to talk about what would help support the parents. Would some parents like to know more and understand more about our curriculum? Could we provide opportunities for parents to learn about that? Would it be best for us to have evening meetings, morning meetings, or have videos available online for whenever parents might be available? And we're looking to meet with some parents to decide the best ways to work on that. Talked about the importance of regular and relevant parent communication. We spoke about reaching to alumni to help. Partner with the community to support education of students, expand digital resources for staff development and staff communication, and collaborate with staff to provide meaningful and relevant professional development. The culture of health and wellness came up quite a bit. It was discussed on many of our different parts of the 2 days. I believe it important to support the development of character, respect, and citizenship. We spoke about the need to strengthen some of the skills for social interactions, the importance of encouraging resiliency in our students, their coping skills, and also how do we achieve balance, and to partner with mental health community resources. And the 4th goal talks about not much of this is possible without strong and sustainable financial resources. So talking about developing alternative revenue sources. We've heard the community that they really do want a full-day kindergarten, although at this point we don't know how we're going to be able to do that. We understand it's a need, so we're going to work to determine how to do that. How do we influence legislation in partnership with the community to help support our schools? And how do we focus and strengthen relationships with our established community groups in town? I did mention we got some additional suggestions from members of the board. So under Goal 1, there was suggestions regarding making sure that the curricular engages and challenges all the learners, make sure that that stays a focus. You can imagine the spread of students we have in this district with 6,300 students. If you pick a type of student, we have that type of student. So how do we make sure our curriculum works for all of those learners? And then also, how do we make sure that no matter what our programs are, no matter what our courses are, that we encourage everyone, every type of student, to participate in programs? How do we monitor that to make sure we're successful in that? And how does every student know that they are welcome to join the club, the team, the class, the program? And then under the 3rd goal, the suggestion was, there was much discussion about, we do have children who are anxious, worried, who don't have balance in their lives. And there's more than one reason for that. that can come from many sources. And our goal would be to look at what are we doing and what are our procedures, what are our policies, what are our programs, how are we contributing to that stress? Probably it's not our intent to do that, but are there some things that exist that are contributing to that? So examining those, listening to what we hear from students and or parents, examining those and see if there's any way where we can change that to promote wellness, because that is so important and it is something we heard quite a bit at the strategic planning. So that's the draft of the strategic plan, and I welcome both questions or suggestions, and then also there are a lot of people here who did participate in the strategic planning, so I'm not quite sure I would have all the answers. I also welcome people to provide answers as we have a discussion.
So just for further information, so what will happen after the strategic plan is adopted, and I'm not cutting off conversation, I'm just kind of thinking ahead, next steps, that the board will, based on the strategic plan, come up with the district's goals for next year, which is, part of this was hard for me, and I've talked to Dr. Dolan about it, is because it's all kind of up here. It's all, it's all very broad, and the concrete is what we all, the action steps that will come from this are what is more engaging and feels like something that we can all kind of grasp and hold on to. So that's the next steps. Does anybody from the board have any questions, comments, further conversation about this draft of the strategic plan? Jenny?
The last two pages, Dr. Dolan, goal 1 and goal 3 with some yellow updates.
Yes.
So on goal 1, I'm favorable, I'm responding favorably toward the information. However, I think the ensure curricula engages and challenges all learners is actually an objective. I'm not sure what we're calling our little arrow points.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We have a goal, and then we have a
Arrow points.
an arrow point that helps to codify the direction that we want to go in to secure the goal. Let's say.
Yes.
And it's always difficult to figure out how, after we decide what large directional areas we want to pursue, then we will take the time to decide what action items we would like to identify that will help us achieve
Right.
those paths that we're going to go down.
So are you thinking that that's
I'm
more
thinking
of an
it-
action item?
I am. I'm thinking the first one is important, critical, something that we want to happen. And it defines something fairly specific that's an instructional, or I guess it's curricular topic. And I'm trying to figure out in my mind how broad or narrow it is and whether it qualifies as something that we would want to do on an annual or first year basis, or whether it rises to the direction setting area. So that was in my mind. And, I'd like to hear from other people, that's great. I couldn't quite figure out what to do with the second arrow, encourage diverse participation in all programs. Maybe that is an area, examination or looking at all programs, I'm not sure. On the goal 3, the fostering of health and wellness, examining policies and procedures, again, I thought that was a little more tactical in nature, that would be something that we might want to execute as part of the understanding of how we're now supporting, or if we have barriers to wellness, if we have real expectations in place through our policy statements that support this culture. So those are my thoughts.
So they're all mine. So I'll respond.
Well, how about that?
So goal 3, I felt like, and like I said, I didn't, it's not easy I struggle with the action steps versus the broader goal statement, but I didn't feel like goal 3 is written accurately, kind of encompass the notion that, as Dr. Dolan said, that we need to take a look at what we're doing, what our expectations are in the classroom academically, that may be fostering may not be fostering a culture of health and wellness. And I didn't see that piece in any of the bullet points that were there.
Nor do I think that you would, because if in fact we want to foster the culture, we would have to look at all of our processes, policies, procedures, everything that happens within the district to make sure that, or to examine, to give us a barometer, a reading of what we do and what it translates to, what the perception of what we do is, how all of our internal constituents interact with it, our external constituents. So I think this is in fact very important, but I think it's one piece of,
But isn't that true for all of them?
yeah.
So what's the difference?
It's a tactical statement of what we're going to do, as opposed to,
But so is partner with mental health community resources. I don't see the distinction.
I understand, just saying.
No, and so in goal 1, my thinking was, if there's, it's 2 separate statements to me. I think they could probably be collapsed, but I want to recognize conversations that are being had among the community about students not feeling like all of our students feeling like they have access to all the programs in our schools.
I think they are 2 separate statements.
You do?
I do. I think the one
Oh,
talks
yeah.
about in the classroom with instruction, and the other is, you're right, not every, sometimes it's as easy as, it's not even always one group, but for example, if your family are involved in science, you're the ones who look at the science programs and you don't take advantage. If your family is, their thing is sports or performing arts, it's inviting others in and letting them know that they're welcome, because what a great gift for children to give them all of those opportunities.
Right.
So I think they are 2 very different things, and I think they're important things for us to do.
I like them.
I have nothing else to say. I said my piece. I think it's very difficult to look at the levels of thinking or statements and how they would compare then to a next step of an annual goal that has an actionable item with tasks that would contribute to accomplishing an arrow point. Since we don't have those, we have nothing to guide us as to what the next level of detailed approach might be.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody from the community want to comment, question? Yeah, I have to ask you to come to the podium, just for the purposes of the TV studio, or the TV. Yeah, the TV studio.
Feeling really that I put on my face a little bit.
If you could just state your name and
Yes,
address.
hi, my name is Paige Gaines. I live at 200 Woodland Avenue. Will be a Wilson parent next year, so I'm actually one child at the pre-K program at Lincoln, and I have one child who's beginning first grade at Wilson. So kind of newly integrating our family into the public school system. We spoke earlier this week or last week. So I'm reading all of this. I apologize for my tardiness tonight, baseball. I'm reading all of this and I'm just wondering, all of these goals are wonderful and fabulous. I just want to know how they differ from last year's goals, how they're improving upon within the school. I mean, wasn't expanding meaningful connections across academic disciplines always a goal? That's what I'm not understanding. Like this, it's great to have these goals, but I estimate there's 6,300 students in the public school system.
Yes, correct.
So that's about $15,000 to $16,000 per student, I'm guessing, sort of. Well, depending on how you break it down. And I just want to know, I guess for me, I want to know how every student benefits in the classroom. I want to know what my kid is getting for it. I want to know, as a community member, how my tax dollars are being spent for it. And I want to know, I have one kid in special education. Does that break down differently from my kid who's going in first grade? I guess I'm sort of curious. I mean, I know it sort of strays from this particular agenda. But those are my questions.
That's a lot of questions.
That's a lot of questions. I apologize. So I understand that we're often solicited as parents from this community for financial resources, including our taxes as well, and private school benefits that I know that schools host, and often school supplies and things like that. So I just want to know how we are getting our maximum benefit for each student. And moving forward, I know at Wilson there was some concern that there's going to be 3, I spoke to Gretchen about this last week, but 3 first grades instead of 4. So I'm wondering, how my student who's attending in the fall is going to not reap that benefit because he won't have as small of a classroom. He's coming from a classroom of 12 into potentially a classroom of 22. These are my questions. I apologize
Right,
for
so-
going off on a major tangent here.
A little bit, and I think that there's probably
I
other
apologize for going a little crazy here.
other parents in the audience who want to talk to the Wilson thing, but because it's not an agenda and just to
I
keep us
apologize.
focused and moving forward,
Yes.
I'm going to put that off until later in the meeting after
That's
we finish
fine.
the business portion. With respect to, there was a lot of questions there.
There was
I'm
a
not
lot of
even sure
questions.
exactly what you're
I
asking.
guess the goals, I want to know how these goals are they newly established? Is this a newly established goal, integrating technology systematically?
So-
Was that not integrated last year or
No.
the year before?
Okay.
I'm not understanding how these goals are newer goals
Sure.
instead of,
So the part that you missed, I'm not quite
I
sure actually.
apologize, I was.
That's
gonna
okay,
say-
it's all right, it's okay. We had a couple of things. We surveyed the community last year to determine what were priorities, what were areas they said that they thought they needed work, what were areas they thought we were doing well, giving feedback to give us some basic information. We put that along with current data regarding budget, as you talked about, regarding student performance, regarding just about any data point that we have. We then had a committee of community members representing all the segments of the community and the district itself, and they reviewed the data, and then they spent 2 days discussing what was working well, what was emerging, what was successful, what did we need to focus on, what did they not think was systemic. I mean, there were a number of different discussions and a number of different thoughts. That's what we wanted. We wanted people with different thoughts, some people who are brand new to the district, and they...
I was going to ask you how you survey the parents. And I've never been surveyed, so I was curious as to know what that process entailed to, obviously come to this goal.
Sure. So, in any case, so what you're seeing tonight is based on the work of mainly the suggestions from the people who served on the community committee. I can now go back to this.
Okay.
Right, and
I'm still
and if you
learning, I
take
apologize.
no, that's fine. And actually, that would be a suggestion. It is a large organization. There are 10 schools. There are 6,300 students. There is a budget, and this board, which is composed of people from the community who volunteer, meet generally twice a month. The videos of all the board meetings are available online. They're also played on local cable channels. And the board has to vote on, and people are also welcome to come to meetings, but you can also see the videos. And the board has to vote on all personnel appointments. They have to vote on all new curriculum. They approve goals for each year. There's not going to be an elevator speech I can give to explain all that, right?
No, yeah,
but
of
it's
course.
worth.
I know I have a lot of questions. I apologize for that again.
No, don't apologize.
Again, I'm here to learn as well as,
Right, right. So the answer about how this proposed strategic plan came to be was basically working with a community group. And there should be copies of the presentation that you can even take and you can see who was on it, et cetera.
Right.
And then this is a basic framework. All the details are not in it. It's a basic framework to lead us for 5 years. And then the next step is the board, at one of the June meetings I would anticipate, we'll be looking at this and we'll be talking about, so what is our focus for next year? What are the goals we're going to focus on that fall under this basic framework that we can focus on next year? So this is to keep us moving. Does it mean we don't use technology? No, we use technology. Does technology constantly change? Yes. So, is our network just recently upgraded? Yes. Does that allow for more systemic use of technology? Yes, it does. So this is making sure we keep on moving. The last thing we want to do is stagnate and say we were good last year. That doesn't really do us any good. We need to keep moving everything because every year we have new parents, we have new students, and they deserve an excellent education.
Okay, I agree.
And it's not, I just am thinking one of your questions was, we had a strategic plan that's now coming to an end. That's available on our website
Yes.
if you wanted to do a point of comparison. I don't happen to have it in front of me, so I can't do it here.
I did do a little research, I apologize for that.
You could see where we were, where we're headed, and also the goals that the board has created every year are also, all those documents are available.
And each of these goals, obviously this is just a basic outline that I'm looking at tonight. Each of these goals are more elaborated upon, like each bullet point here, each arrow point here has a how we're going to do this, establishing how we're going to increase project-based learning. There is that information available as well.
No.
No, this
No,
is
there isn't.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not
This
yet.
is,
Okay.
the broad document.
The process will be to expand the arrow points into real task-oriented activities that will take place over 5 years. And some areas, some arrows might be focused on each of the 5 years.
Okay.
Some might be hit up on year 1, 3, and 5. Some might be identified for a first-year target that will carry through because a program or procedure or process will be developed that will carry it forward. These are the targeted areas of relevance for each of the goals.
Okay.
But because it's an iterative process that's being developed, we're currently at a fairly high-level stage of understanding of exactly the breadth and the depth of the strategic plan and how it will play out over time. So the first step is to say, these are major goal areas that are very important to us: deeper learning, wellness, stakeholder engagement, and strong and sustainable finance. And as a second cut, we looked at these areas that we thought could contribute to making those goals accomplishable or stronger or
And where is that stated?
valuable.
Where is that stated? How these goals are accomplishable?
Well, what I'm trying to say is the
Yeah.
arrowheads are the identified areas that we think could contribute to accomplishing those goals.
Okay.
Now, each of those arrow points will then be developed into objectives and tasks, a manageable number of them on an annual basis.
Okay. Okay.
So the answer is not yet there, but in the process
process of getting there.
developing these major focal areas that we think are critical to the success of the district and who we want to be known as.
And goal 1 is the top priority.
No,
no, they're not ranked.
Oh, they're not ranked as
no,
priority?
they're not ranked.
Is there any priority pertaining to any of these goals, out of curiosity?
I don't know that there's a priority.
Wait, I'm gonna have to, when she's
sorry,
done, then you
I
could
can-
come up and, yeah. I wanna hear what you have to say, believe me. I just, from back there, it doesn't communicate through on the video.
I think the understanding is that we're in the business of education.
Yes.
So learning is our primary goal of accomplishment. We need to provide learning. We need learning to take place. We need our students to be engaged in learning. We measure achievement, and we are ranked and assessed by achievement.
But it's also, I think, one of the points, just what you're trying to bring up, is that there's certain things that I think you have to be a little more broad, because we have an ever-changing environment. Who knew technology 5 years ago would be where it is today, like with wellness and social media and posting on any level of that and how it affects our children. So I think there's certain areas that we do need to stay broad but have a direction. There's
But are
other-
those prioritized areas, like particularly technology, because it's so
Well-
vastly
Well,
changing?
here's
If
what
I
I'll
could
tell you
go
about
on for a
tech-
moment.
Well, sorry, I was just gonna address the technology.
After the deeper learning focus, or in addition to the deeper learning focus, we require stakeholders to be engaged in the process that supports that learning. We have been made aware that the culture of, the climate of our school is critical to accomplishing learning. We know that innately, and we know that because of research, and we know that because of anecdotal information. So health and wellness is a very critical area of concern to us, and we're focusing on it specifically as a component of learning in the
A broader
climate that we
spectrum. I understand.
support. And then we cannot accomplish this without financial resources. And to point out what Charles was saying, technology specifically needs to be on our table and within our minds because of its cost, because of its impact, because of its relationship to learning. And we wanted to be very, very careful about making certain that it was called out as a specific value statement.
And
Did
a
you-
priority.
Well, it is a priority.
Yes, of course.
I mean,
I-
the school's already gonna be upgraded this summer from the bond we just floated. Technology is gonna be, everything's gonna be Wi-Fi ready, the announcing.
school.
Every school.
It's been a priority for years.
Yes.
So,
That work will start this summer.
On the elementary school.
on the
Yes.
Everything
elementaries,
else is
everything
complete.
else is done.
And one of the reasons that we needed to call that out is because in a tight budget environment, if the economy should give us some difficulty, if state aid should be cut, we want to be absolutely certain that we've already identified that technology remains a priority. In the past, it had been cut, its support had been cut back.
So this is a current threat.
It's always a threat to us, yes. It's always a threat to us.
Okay.
And you know, we welcome you to the community and your curiosity and your learning interest, and it takes a long time to learn how all
It
the
does.
pieces fit together. But starting out to know with the questions of what am I getting out of this and what's my
Every
benefit?
parent's going to ask what they're getting out of it, right? In this
Um,
community.
It is.
And they should.
It is critical to start attending meetings at your local school, to read your synopsis, which is provided at the end of every meeting, every board meeting, that gives a recap of all the discussion and the information that occurs, and to become familiar with the website and ask questions. You're on the right track.
Thanks. You gotta come on. I know, it's just, everybody needs, when people are watching on the video, they need to be able to understand what the conversation was about. If you could just say your name and address, please.
Nicole Breslow,
Country
310 Scotch Plains
All right.
Avenue. I'm just wondering what the process is for developing the action steps.
Sure. Do you want to speak to, I'll let you speak to it.
Sure. So the next step is for the board to have a discussion and talk about what areas of focus are for next year. And then for the action steps, it is myself, the business administrator, the assistant superintendent for curriculum, the assistant superintendent for special services, who work to develop action steps, reaching out to other administrators and/or teachers, and then bringing it back to the public so it can be presented there. So at any point, if there are suggestions to make things better, items we haven't been, that are not included, we welcome that. Additionally, as I noted before, there were a number of specific suggestions within the notes and our discussions on those 2 Saturdays. So we have those also. We have lists of them so that we reference them when we go back and develop the action steps for the goals that will be chosen. But ideas are certainly welcome.
Yeah, come on up to the podium, please.
Hey. So my name is Kathy Murphy. I'm over on Kimball Avenue, and I'm also in the Wilson School. And I appreciate you later in the meeting addressing what's going on in first grade. I do have a 5th grader in the school now, and I do have a 1st grader in the school. But my question is, I'd like the definition of ensure the curricula engages in challenges for all learners, and what you as the board define as all learners, because I currently have a first grader, and I moved to Westfield Schools a few years ago from Morris County, and I came here because of the school system. And I have a child who comes home because he thinks he can't learn and he can't read, and because he can't read. So one of my concerns is, will the board put in place for children with special needs a psychologist at the schools that's on duty to help with these children, help with their self-esteem? I know I've gone to private schools, and that's always set in place. And I wondered if that was anything that would be considered, because being a parent of a child with special needs who is now recognizing he's so behind than his fellow first graders, and I don't know what to tell him.
Sure, so just a couple of things, maybe,
Sure.
Suggestions. So as many people can imagine, the range of students within special education it's vast, it's incredible. There's so many challenges that children have, and they vary widely, and they can change over the years. So that's why every child who's classified has an individualized education plan, an IEP, which changes as the child changes, as the child learns, as the child has new challenges. It changes, okay? So there's no one right answer. Every elementary school in Westfield has the services of a counselor. Okay, now that is different than a school psychologist. However, it's a good place to start with a school counselor. And if that hasn't been discussed already, either at your IEP, for any parent, I'm not going to speak specifically to your situation, but for any child who has a child in elementary school, there's counseling services there at each school. At the intermediate level, we have a counselor assigned to each grade in each of our intermediate schools, and at our high school, all of our students are assigned to a counselor for their 4 years. So there is support for students who require support, would be an overall answer.
Okay, and what's your definition of the all learners?
So I happen to know a lot of stories about students in our schools, as you might imagine. I spent a large part of my day talking with administrators or going into classrooms. So I think I have a pretty good sense of what all learners means. It's the child who just arrived here from another country. It's a child who has challenges along the spectrum. It's a child who is incredibly gifted in science. It is the child who's driving the entire family crazy during their teenage years. It is the child who today is acting like a bully and tomorrow will feel like a victim. I mean, truly, just parents know the wide range of children in their family. Just imagine what it would be if you spread that out over all our families in Westfield. So we truly work to reach all students. Do we reach that every single day? I doubt we do, but we work every day to try to get in. If it doesn't work today with that child and this program doesn't work, well, you keep working because the kids are worth it, honestly.
All right, great, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah.
You can.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Zarafa. I was actually a part of the committee, so I'm just going to take the conversation back one step away from the action steps. On the third goal, the bullet point on encouraging resiliency, coping skills, and balance. I feel like this was a big part of the conversation with the committee in general in school, and I imagine it was a big task to figure out which bullet points to put in. But I would encourage the board to consider separating balance out of this bullet and turning it into its own bullet. I think that resiliency and coping skills fit together well and would translate into action steps that would go together. But I think that balance is a separate task, is a separate goal, and that the action steps for that could look very different, in part because of how much it involves the family. And I couldn't come up with a word other than culture, and I didn't want to use culture because that's in the broad goal. I thought of meta message, I thought of dynamic, so I don't have the word for you, I don't know what this arrow should look like, but I would like to see it emphasized a little bit more because that is what I hear consistently from families, is that there is no balance in Westfield. What the kids expect of themselves, what families expect of their kids, what teachers expect of the kids, none of it looks like balance. Even though everyone says it, that's not what it looks like, from sports to arts to academics. So that is my suggestion.
So while you're up there, if we go to the yellow there, so this is the goal 3. So if we took balance out of the third arrow and then said to promote balance and wellness, does that work, do you think? No? Okay, we got a no over here. There we go. It's just a thought.
Balance being down there, maybe separate from wellness, maybe not needing to repeat wellness again, I think.
I see, that's an idea.
Actually, because that encompasses.
Because you're right, you have wellness in the top, so you don't need to repeat it. So we could move the balance to the last one, examine policies and procedures to promote, not quite promote balance, it doesn't quite work, but it's
I
close.
hadn't thought about that, actually.
We'll work on it.
Yeah, but that's a great suggestion, thank you. Yeah.
Actually, I think
we get it.
I have some words to go over with you also on the yellows.
Okay.
That might
Anybody
broaden
else?
them.
Anybody else from the board?
This is one of the most difficult topics that the board engages in every 5 years. Trying to get it right and separate, understand what should be goals, what should be topics under goals, what then should be actually objectives and action items. This, I think we should not feel bad that it's a strain. We don't do this every day. It's a difficult process.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree. And I just want to echo what Dr. Dolan said in thanking the community members, not only for giving up your Saturdays, but also for coming tonight. And I know that this was circulated to you even beforehand, and you took the time to look at it. And thank you even, to all of our new community members who are here tonight, because it's critical. And if you're frustrated, we get it. We're frustrated too. So I think that what probably makes the most sense is we don't need to vote on this tonight. We clearly have a little bit more work to do. And it's not critical. We can do it at our next meeting.
Yes, correct.
So we'll go back to the drawing board, work on a few things, and then we'll circulate it again to the board. Sound good?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, moving on. I'd like to ask the board to approve the minutes of our meeting held on May 10th and the private minutes of May 10th, 2016. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Ginny, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I have to abstain.
Chris abstains. Personnel, Mark.
I'd like the board to consider personnel items 1 through 28. 22 through 28 were at your table as an addendum. Second, Ginny, thank you. Dr. Dolan, you had some comments?
I do. Actually, for the first item on personnel, I'm going to ask Dr. Michael Weissman, who is our Assistant Superintendent for Pupil Personnel Services, to acknowledge the retirement of Charles Ropars and to speak about this good man for just a moment.
Thank you, Dr. Dolan. Sadly, the Westfield Public Schools has lost one of its finest teachers. Chuck Ropars dedicated 36 years of his life to the Westfield Public Schools and the students in the community. Chuck Ropars was an outstanding and dedicated special education teacher who was instrumental in the development of the Bridge program at the Westfield High School. Chuck always put the students' needs first, and he believed they could accomplish anything with effort and the proper support. He earned his students' trust, which was the key to his success in the program. Chuck was a proponent of project-based learning, and he did everything in his power to engage his students in the learning process. Chuck took pride in his students' growth and achievements, and he handled the students as individuals, and whenever a problem arose, he made them a part of the solution. Chuck was a mentor, confidant, advocate, coach, educator, and all-around good person. He made a real difference in so many children's lives over the many years he worked in Westfield, and he will be missed by all those who had the pleasure of working with him. I'd like to ask that we observe a moment of silence for this dedicated teacher. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Weisman. We also have two other retirements to announce. One is Barry Furr, who is one of our elementary instrumental teachers, currently working with students at both McKinley and Franklin schools. Since he joined the Westfield schools in 1982, he has shared his love of music and expertise with generations of students. He has a sense of humor that anyone who knows him will remember. He has patience and the ability to customize instruction to each student's understanding and needs, and he's helped many young musicians progress in their learning. We also have Susan Furr, who is the head secretary at Roosevelt Intermediate School, a position she has held for many years. For 29 years, Susan has offered her support and expertise to Ken Shulak and then to Stu Carey. Susan's talents include her extraordinary attention to detail as well as her strong organizational skills. She's able to juggle multiple tasks and remembers every staff member and just about every student who has ever been part of the Roosevelt community. We wish them the best of luck. Both Susan and her husband, Barry, are history buffs, and they're very excited about their move to their new home in Charlottesville, Virginia, an area they picked for the rich vein of history that runs through the area. So we wish them well in their retirement.
Thank you.
That's it. No, we
May I
need
just
to-
make one comment? On items numbers 12, 13, 14, and 16, I will be voting in the affirmative. As a new board member, it's my first time seeing contracts for senior level administrators, and I welcome getting to learn the process a little bit more, and there's some things that Dana actually discussed that perhaps we can have inclusive next year, which may require some changes on a regulatory level as well.
A state regulatory level?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. We'll wait for that.
Anybody else? Ginny?
Yes. There are a couple of items that I thought would be of interest to call out. Number 11, and then 23 through 27. Number 11 is our appointment of assistant principal at the high school.
Right, I think after we vote, I believe she's here. And
She is.
she, assuming it goes as we all anticipate, she may very well have a word.
Dr. Dolan, you don't want to make any comment before the vote?
I can certainly do that. Number 11 is where I am recommending to the board the appointment of Ms. Margaret McFadden to be assistant principal at Westfield High School. Margaret McFadden is a longtime teacher at Westfield High School, and recently, for a number of different reasons, she has volunteered and been coaxed to help us out when we've had people on leaves, administrative positions on leave at the high school. But we now have, with the transfer of Mary Asfendis to Edison School, we have a full opening at Westfield High School, and I'm very happy to be recommending Margaret to the position. She has served Westfield High School well and has a true commitment to the students and staff there.
Thank you.
Item 23 and 24, you're separating program and testing for supervisor of gifted.
That's correct.
Could you give us a little rationale?
Sure. So we have, for several years, had a stipend for one of our existing administrators to be in charge of the gifted program. This year, David Dolks was the supervisor of the gifted program. He had previously been the assistant principal at Edison. The program is basically housed at Edison, so he had held that position. We now have a new assistant principal at Edison, Mary Asfendis, so that there'll be a transition for the program and it can continue smoothly, to run smoothly. David Dolks is going to focus on the logistics and the testing part of the gifted program, and Mary Asfendis, who is housed at Edison and is there to evaluate, supervise the program, will focus on the program part of it. So the stipend has been split between these two administrators for the gifted program.
Good. And I'm assuming that you've discussed this with the association president?
Yes.
Okay, because we didn't make provisions for this in the contract at the time we wrote it.
We did not, but we do have, we had done similar things with the stipend for basic skills for a few years now, so there's some logic to it, I guess.
Yes, we did. But I don't know that it carries over, but it's fine with me. I think that's very reasonable, presuming that at some point in time it might be rejoined in one individual in Edison.
So it truly will depend on what's best for the program.
Of course.
And we'll make a judgment, but this certainly, I think, is going to be a very good transition, and then we'll make judgments as the year progresses.
Good. And then we did make provisions in the supervisors and principals contract for splitting basic skills.
Right.
And so would you like to tell us a little bit about your thinking there?
Certainly. So we have an intermediate basic skill program, so basic skills for students who might be in 6th, 7th, or 8th grade. And so for the past few years, that has been a separate assignment, again, part of a stipend. And I'm recommending Brian Geckman, who is the assistant principal at Roosevelt, to have that role, and Scott Lipson, who is assistant principal at Franklin School, to supervise the elementary, both basic skills and the Title I at the elementary level as well.
Are they currently in those positions?
They are.
Separate? Okay. And you're recommending continuation of our current coordinator of elementary principals?
Yes, Joseph Malanga, recommending him to continue as the coordinator of elementary principals.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dana?
Mark Friedman.
Yes.
Rob Garrison.
Yes.
Chris Lineheart.
Yes.
Jenny Lights.
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg.
Yes.
Peggy Astor.
Yes.
Charles Ostrov.
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
Yes.
Certainly under no obligation. The little birdie told me maybe, so I certainly want to extend the invitation if you'd like.
Well, good evening, everyone. I have a tendency to be long-winded, so I wrote down some remarks to keep it short. Okay. First of all, I want to thank you for your confidence in me and the work that I've done over the past few years as interim assistant principal. I'm excited to continue to be a member of the high school administrative team and looking forward to working alongside of incredible teachers, staff, and administrators. Thanks to my buddy Jim for coming out to support me tonight. I know that I'm stepping out of my familiar classroom, the gym, but I'm grateful to be able to connect with students on a different level in different areas. I hope to inspire them to make the most of their time at Westfield High School, academically and socially. Teaching has always been my passion. I will never stop. The classroom has just gotten bigger for me. I'm honored to have worked all of my adult life in the Westfield School District. It is with tremendous sense of pride that I accept this position, and I thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very welcome.
Mark, anything else under personnel?
No, ma'am.
Facilities. Brendan is not here. He did not leave me with a report. Does anyone else have a facilities report? Dana, is there anything to
Just we're
report?
moving along with all the projects that we had planned for this summer that were funded by the bond referendum. So we have boilers at Jefferson and Wilson going forward. We're doing fire alarms in, I believe it's 5 buildings. The PA upgrades in all of the schools, the elementary Wi-Fi that we talked about earlier. And then we have a number of small projects that we're doing as well, floor replacements, ceiling and lighting replacements and things. So they're all planned. Most of them are starting right after school ends. Some have actually started after hours already.
Great.
Dana, I don't know that we have a facilities meeting scheduled through the end of the year. Where do we stand with our solar information?
We just finalized the contract. That was
Okay.
a very, very long contract and very tedious. The attorneys were going back and forth. It's very complicated. But in the meantime, while the contract was going back and forth, the company has been working on the plans. We did appear before the planning board
All right.
a couple weeks ago, and that went fine. So they're ready to start probably again as soon as school ends. They'll start installing panels on 5 of the buildings.
Great.
We expect it should probably be complete and up and running sometime late fall or early winter.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. Long-range planning. Jenny, do you have a report?
I have no report except to thank Dr. Dolan and your central staff for putting together our arrowed items on the strategic plan.
Policies. Chris.
Yeah, we'll have our next policies meeting on June 7th. We have a couple items on the agenda from past policy meetings. I'd like the board to consider for approval at first reading the following policy, 2430, extracurricular activities. Can I have a second?
Second.
Any questions?
Mark
Dana?
Friedman,
Yes.
Rob Garrison,
Yes.
Chris Lighthart,
Yes.
Ginny Lights,
Yes.
Gretchen Olick,
Yes.
Peggy Astor,
Yes.
Charles Astra,
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
Yes.
We have two policies for approval for second reading. I'd like the board to consider for approval policy 5339, screening for dyslexia, and 5500, conduct discipline code of conduct. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mitch. Any questions? Dana?
Mark Friedman,
Yes.
Rob Garrison,
Yes.
Chris Lighthart.
Yes.
Ginny Lights,
Yes.
Gretchen Olick.
Yes.
Peggy Astor.
Yes.
Charles Astra.
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
Yes.
Nothing further to report.
Great. Curriculum, instruction, and program. We have a meeting tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., but I have nothing further to report. Right? Finance, Mark.
I'd like the board to consider finance items 1 through 21. Second, Ginny, thanks. Item 21, I'd like to call out, we accept a gift of $500 from the Westfield Coalition for the Arts to fund the guest conductor Brian Rudrow to work with 6th, 7th, and 8th grade concert bands at Roosevelt Intermediate School. Thank you very much for that. Any other questions, comments? Mitch?
Yeah, I have a few questions on resolution number 1. Dr. Dolan, possibly you could help me. First of all, I'd like to get an update on this past year with our school resource officer. I continue to have a lot of issues with it, but I'd certainly like to get a sense of what went on this year. And the second part of the question would be, did he have any more specific training this year?
Okay. Let me not forget to answer that second
Sure.
part. Okay. So in the past few years, the district partnered with the town, and one police officer who was trained as a school resource officer spent his week in Westfield High School and was there for 5 days a week. Also helped in some of the other schools, but the main place he stayed was at the high school. But if some people will remember that for the 2015-16 school year, this past school year, because of budget issues, we had to cut back the amount of money we gave to the town, and so the officer was only assigned to the school for 2 days a week. I have to say that that was a huge difference. And the reason you have a school resource officer, main reason is the police officer gets to know the school, establishes connections with students and with staff, and that helps quite a bit in a lot of different ways. So if someone has a concern about something, they feel comfortable going to someone that they know. When the person is only there 2 days and not the same day every week, you don't establish that same rapport. So that was noticeable. We did have some success. I had spoken with the police chief about branching, prior to knowing that we had to cut back on resources, branching out more and getting into the middle schools more. And the chief of police, Chief Wayman, had the same had the same interest. So we did start that just a bit this year, although we had limited time. The school resource officer and another officer established a program for some of our middle school students that was really focused on their presence on the internet and what their responsibilities are on the internet and what concerns are about the internet. So that was off to a good start this year, and we plan to do more of that. So next year, we were able to add to the budget the $50,000, which we had done in other years, so that will allow a school resource officer to be in the school 5 days a week again, which should be very different than what we experienced this year. And when you mentioned the training, I certainly can't speak to all of his training, but I do know, for example, Union County really has a good coordinated effort for providing training for both law enforcement and schools, and some of it's done at the same time. Where they give us the up-to-date word on what are the trends, be it on internet, social media, or safety in the schools. And so we have definitely our administrators and law enforcement, including the SRO, have attended training throughout the course of the year regarding that.
Okay. Now, the reason I asked the second question is there are only 12 states currently that have specific school resource officer training. I'm actually not aware of New Jersey. If New Jersey is one of those states, and if he went through
He-
the
he-
specific programs. I think he did in the past, but I'm not sure.
He did. Before he started in the high school, the Westfield Police Department had him go through the training for school resource officer. So I know, at least at that time, New Jersey had that specific training. I believe they still do, but would be my area of expertise.
Okay.
Mark, if I may have 2 points. On number 2, in terms of Aflac and the voluntary insurance program, I wanted to commend Dana. Not all school districts are doing this, and Dr. Dolan as well. And I think it's hugely important when you look at benefits that are being cut and employees that are impacted by what's going on economically. It's great that this school district has decided to provide this for employees, because it really allows them a way, gives them a way to take care of their families in a way that they're not able to now in an affordable way. Doing it through the school district makes it very practical, so I commend the school district for doing that. And also, I wanted to thank Dana for entertaining my questions and concerns with item number 3, and I'll leave it at that.
Great.
Any other questions? Okay, Dana?
Mark Friedman,
Yes.
Rob Garrison,
Yes.
Chris Lighthart,
Yes.
Ginny Lights,
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg,
Yes.
Peggy Astor,
Yes.
Charles Astroff,
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
On number 2 through 21, I'm yes. On number 1, I just have a brief statement. My views from previous years have not changed, that I cannot support an armed police school resource officer at Westfield High School. I continue to believe that the funds would be better allocated towards what's known as an SAC, a student assistant counselor, or mental health professional instead of an armed officer. As a criminologist at University of Maryland recently wrote in a research report on this topic, there's no evidence that placing officers in the school improves safety, and it increases the number of minor behavior problems that are referred to the police, pushing kids sometimes into the criminal justice system. Please know I've said in the past I have nothing against Officer Johnson. He is an excellent police officer, dedicated young man. Obviously, I want all of our schools to be as safe as an environment as possible, which I currently believe they are. I just continue to believe bringing a gun into the school is not the smartest way to do it. So my vote on this resolution remains a no. Thank you.
Okay.
That's it.
Legislation, again, Brendan didn't leave me any report. Does anyone have? Okay. Technology, Mitch, is there a report?
There's no report. Our next meeting will be June 10th, I believe. And I just want to give a shout out to Jay and all of the folks over there that do such a great job dating myself. I won't even say filming. Digitizing us, yes, animating, which might not be a bad idea. But the new microphones, the new HD system, those of you watching at home are seeing us in HD, which might be really scary for some of us. But Jay, you've done a tremendous job in the improvements that have been made in this area. And as you know, as the head of the technology chairman of the committee, this is something I know that's been a big priority, and you've taken a giant leap. And I'm hoping that the next step will be live streaming the meetings. And you and I know have talked about that, and I know you're working towards that goal, which is very, very exciting. So thank you again on behalf of all of us on the committee, all of us on the board, for all the hard work and these really cool mics. They're really great.
Thank you. I'd like to ask the board to note the notes for the record. Do we have any unfinished business to talk about this evening? New business? Liaison reports.
I do.
Perfect.
2 liaison reports. One, I was going to report for special ed. They received proceeds from the Washington School Readathon in a total of $1,500, which they put toward their scholarship, which is allowing them to give 2 to 3 more scholarships out this year to well-deserved high school seniors heading off to college and meeting their different requirements. Also, I know the special ed committee is looking for people who are willing to help on their committee. The woman, Lisa Wendell Kopp, will be graduating out of the school system in a year. So she's looking for some new blood. They're a great committee. They do, I think she said about 6 presentations every year, bringing in speakers and so forth for special education topics and so forth. It's a great committee, very well attended, and they're really looking for some new blood. So if you have an interest, please, you can reach out to her. She would love to have any helpers that she could possibly have. And last, I also am the Ptc Liaison, and I attended the meeting on, I think, last Thursday, of which they swore in their new board, and I just want to let people know it's a great committee. It's an opportunity for the whole community to come out once a month on Thursdays and hear what all the schools are doing, different fundraisers, programs they run in their schools. Dr. Dolan is there to answer questions and so forth. So it's a wonderful organization that gives services to the whole community and supports all of our schools. So I wish them well going into the 2016-17 school year.
Thank you. And Lori, they have a link on our website, correct? So if anyone's interested in reaching out to Lisa specifically about special ed or getting information, there's information on our website. I also just have a quick liaison report, kind of riding Mitch's coattails. I was at the Westfield High School PTSO meeting, and I just want to comment that there's a lot of conversation happening about live streaming graduation and all of that. And as Mitch noted, Jay's on top of it, and it is an active conversation, and efforts are being made to get us where we need to be. Certainly, nothing is happening. Once we're up and running, announcements will be made. And but I just wanted to say that because I've heard a lot of people inquiring, and I think they think we're not even thinking about it. But we are thinking about it. We're trying to get us where we need to be, and certainly don't want to make an announcement that we're there until we're positive that we're there. So, any other liaison reports? I'd like to, at this point, recognize the public for questions and comments that aren't on our agenda. So I know we have parents from Wilson here. This is your opportunity if you'd like to come up to the podium, name and address, and let us know what your thoughts are. We welcome them. You certainly aren't obligated either. We know why you're here. I know that a number of people have reached out both to me and also to other members of the board specifically about enrollment for next year based on an email that came out from the principal of Wilson. And so I think Dr. Dolan's prepared to address it. She can address it, and then if you guys have follow-up questions, maybe we'll go that way.
That's good? Okay. All right, so since Westfield has neighborhood schools, that's why we have the big push in January to get as many students registered as possible. Because we take those numbers, we compare them to, I usually get them by beginning of February. We need them for the budget. Because then I look at, so how many do we have registered, and how does that compare with our trends over the years for registered in February versus starting in September, right? And so the fact that a school has 6 first grades this year has no bearing on how many first grades they have next year. It's always dependent on the enrollment that happens. And we then monitor the enrollment over the summer, because often the enrollment follows the trends that we know for that particular school. And let me be clear, the trends for schools are different. There are some schools I always know are going to have the last minutes and others not as much. Wilson, since we're asking about Wilson's first grade, Wilson had, and then I think it was an anomaly. We'll find out this year whether it's a trend or an anomaly. I think it was an anomaly. Last year, the registered students for first grade, based on how many were registered when we made the budget, we lost 8 students by the starting in September. That does not happen in our first grades. We don't lose students once they're registered. So I think that was an anomaly, but I don't know that for sure. Because we lost 8 students, the numbers in Wilson this year's first grades, are low. To tell you the truth, they're lower than they're supposed to be by the policy of the district. The district policy says that for grades 1 to 5, the desired range for the class is 18 to 25. And Wilson's are just below that. And that's because 8 students who had been registered right towards the end left, right before the beginning of September, not the end, before the beginning of September. So We'll definitely will follow the trends. I have a first grade, not in Wilson, I have a first grade in Jefferson, where their numbers are very high, much higher than Wilson's at this point. I'm not quite ready to announce that we need another section there, but I bet you I'll be going to the board pretty soon to ask for that, because I think their numbers really are high enough. My guess at this moment is Wilson will need an additional section, but we're not there, especially with last year's anomaly. Because once I hire someone, I hire them, they're in the budget. And I can only hire enough people that we need for our students. That's how the budget is built. So I hope that explains it, but if not, certainly can ask questions.
Yeah, if you have a question, just come up to the podium and state your name and address, please.
Speaking about class sizes, my name is Amy Cook, I'm on Walberg Avenue. About class sizes, I have a current second grader and an incoming first grader. And my current second grader's class, his class size is 25. At what point do we look at making, there are 3 sections of second grade currently. At what point can that go back up to 4? Because the classrooms are crowded, there's not enough resources towards the individual student. Dora specifically, it's 23 in the morning, 25 in the afternoon.
There's 24.
And 24 and stands.
Plus leaps and bounds coming in.
Plus leaps and
Oh,
bounds.
I see, you're including, that was my confusion, actually. You're including students who come in from other classes.
No. In stands.
We both have the same situation. Currently 2 boys in second grade. And then
Could you just say your name and address? Thank you very much.
Deirdre Nowak, and I live on North Euclid. Stanzel's class has 24 kids, plus they get leaps and bounds in. Dora has
23 and then 25 with the leaps and bounds
Oh.
kids.
Yeah, I think we have 2 leaps and bounds. You know, the class is crowded.
Sure.
My son cannot get the resources that he needs from his teacher. She, thank God, has aides in the class that are wonderful to my son. But, you know, I look at my little guy coming in first grade. He's going to be 22, 23, 24. You know, at what point will you make the decision, so we know as parents, like come, is it August, we'll know for certain?
So honestly, I make the decision as soon as I can make the decision. I don't try to drag it out, honestly,
Right.
for a number of reasons, right? There's not a magic number, because the size of McKinley or the size of Franklin or the size of Wilson is different. And so depending on whether you split from 3 to 4 or 2 to 3 has an impact. What you try to do is just get it within the range,
Yeah.
okay, between 18 and 25. So I can't give you a magic number.
But the max size is 25 per class, is that what it is?
Yes,
For at least Westfield?
it's the recommended one, okay? There are times where you can't do that, honestly, where we have classes of 25 and 26. We try not to do that. It depends on, are there more rooms in the classroom? I'm sorry, are there more classrooms in the school? Are there more classrooms in the school available? And sometimes there are not.
In Wilson, there are though.
That may be the case,
Right.
but just answering
Right.
generally, so it depends on a number of different items.
Okay.
Okay, but again, I don't try to drag it out as long as possible. If we really do need it, I will go to the board and I will explain why, show the numbers, have them give me feedback, and let them know that I believe that needs to happen.
I mean, and speaking from my second grader specifically, he went from a class size of 17 last year to a class size that has 25 in the afternoon. The attention that he used to have, that individualized attention, has dropped. And we've seen a huge change in his development this year. And I would like to think it's a result of that. But I just, I know that our focus is on the students and making sure they're all receiving the proper attention and learning. But I think we're losing that a little bit. And so I'm nervous for my daughter coming in to a situation where in first grade, I know that there a lot of the resources for the teachers spent on evaluating the incoming students because they don't know them. At least with second graders, they know who the students are, they know what their needs are, they can move them along. But there's so many different evaluations with first graders that I worry that they're going to get lost.
Sure, understood. And understand, the other piece of it is trying to, you can't always do it because each school is different, and it is a challenge of having neighborhood schools, but trying to balance across schools as well. You know, exactly, and but I will also tell you that each one of our principals is constantly updating me on changes to it, because they also want to know if there is going to be a change, they need to be able to plan that both for classrooms, for teachers, et cetera, for all kinds of schedules, actually. So Mr. Malanga and I have certainly had quite a few conversations, as well as the other principals.
Well, we need to be advocates for our children, right?
That's right.
And I know that there was some concern too, that it seemed like it was set in stone once that announcement was made. And so I'm glad that you came so that you know it's a situation that's being constantly monitored and that.
For all three grades or just specifically?
All
for
grades, all
All
schools.
grade, all the time, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if the teachers ever get feedback, can give their feedback, but,
I'm sure Mr. Malanga has gotten teacher.
I'm sure. I mean,
Yes.
it's sad. There's certain things that in Stanzel's class happens every year. You didn't do this year. That's sad.
I'll also just say, not quite to your point honestly, but related, there is no doubt that it has been a busy real estate market this spring in Westfield. And that's a great thing. It's a wonderful thing. And there is no doubt that, we had done enrollment projections a few years ago, and we were supposed to be seeing a steady, slow decline, and we had been, but not so much right now. So people are moving in, and they're enrolling their students. That's a great thing, but it's something that needs constant attention, and clearly something that impacts the budget, which is, which is a reality. So we are monitoring it, and we are seeing, specifically in the first grade, seeing an increase that is more than we would have expected. But how great, we have more students coming, that's our role. So we'll work on it, and we will monitor it, and if there's a decision that needs to be made, I'll make it sooner rather than later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gretchen, if I may, I just wanted to put on the record, even though this isn't an actionable item or an agenda item, I'm staying quiet on the issue because my daughter is entering the first grade in Wilson School. I did speak with Principal Malanga, and he keeps me abreast of things, but I will not comment nor get involved in the situation. My wife, on the other hand, is not on the board, so I don't know what she'll do.
Duly noted.
That's
thank
right,
you.
duly warned, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Rogue spouses.
Anyone else from the public that wants to, questions or comments? If not, I would ask the board to approve the following resolution. Resolve that the Board of Education move into private session for the purpose of discussing personnel, pending or anticipated litigation, pending or anticipated contract negotiations, and a harassment, intimidation, and bullying incident. Resolve that any discussions held by the board which need not remain confidential, and the results of the discussions will be made public as soon as practical. Can I have a second, please? Ginny, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.